The Galactic Council met in a hall so huge that even sound took a moment to settle. Hundreds of species sat inside, each in their own shaped seats, each speaking in their own colors, lights, and voices. But on this day, they were all focused on one single topic: Earth. For years, the Council had watched humans from a distance. They saw a world full of noise, conflict, passion, and rapid growth. To many species, humans looked chaotic. To others, they looked dangerous. But to most of the Council members, humans looked unpredictable. And unpredictable things made powerful empires nervous. So they gathered to vote. Floating translation. Drones circled above the table, turning strange sounds into clear messages. Representatives spoke one after another, sharing old fears, new suspicions, and all the reasons they believed humanity needed to be controlled. Some argued that humans were growing too fast. Others believed humans had an unusual way of solving problems, breaking traditions, breaking limits, breaking everything in their path if they needed to. Many species saw this as a threat, not a strength. A few told stories about how humans had turned deserts into farms, ashes into forests, and dead land into living cities. To the Council, these stories were not inspiring. They were warnings. What kind of species rebuilt their world after every problem and came back stronger each time? What kind of species refused to stay weak? The Council hall stayed calm on the outside, but underneath the calm was fear. Some species tried to hide it. Others did not. A few even said that if humans reached space at full strength, they might become the most powerful species the galaxy had ever seen. And the Council was not ready for that. For thousands of years. The galaxy had worked under a quiet rule. Strong species stayed strong, weak species stayed weak, and no new civilization was allowed to suddenly rise without permission. It kept the balance stable, or at least predictable. But humans did not follow these rules. They had already reached space faster than expected. They had built technologies the Council thought impossible for a young world. And they did it without asking anyone. So the Council wanted to stop them before it was too late. The vote began. Representatives lifted their hands, their tendrils, their metallic limbs. Some flashed signals through their skin. Others pressed glowing crystals. Every species cast their vote, one by one. And the result came back the same from every corner of the hall. Every species had voted to enslave. Earth. The word itself wasn't spoken loudly. It did not echo or ring. Instead, it came out quiet, almost gentle, like a secret nobody wanted to admit out loud. They called it containment, and forced guidance, and some even dressed the idea in nicer words, like protection. But everyone understood what it really meant. Earth would be taken. Humans would be controlled. Their future would be written for them. A small archivist bot recorded the entire event. Its metal body hovered in the corner, silent and unnoticed. It saved every sound, every movement, every vote. It did not judge. It did not care. It simply recorded history, as it had done for centuries. When the vote officially ended, the hall let out a long breath of relief. It felt like a great danger had just been removed, even though nothing had happened yet. But the Council believed that once humanity was under control, the galaxy would be safe again. Invasion fleets were prepared. Cargo holds were redesigned to carry humans in large groups. Restraining fields were tested. Commanders were selected. Hundreds of powerful species began organizing armies that would soon travel to a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. They believed the mission would be simple. Humans were still a pre-FTL species, meaning they had not yet mastered faster-than-light travel at least. That's what the Council thought. Their world was considered young, their defenses weak, their people unaware of the danger waiting in space. Everything looked easy. But the galaxy, didn't know the truth that far away on Earth. Humanity had already discovered things the Council did not expect. They had already built things the Council did not understand. Silent experiments, hidden observatories, secret stations in deep orbit Earth had been preparing, not for war, but for the day they finally met the universe. Humans had always been curious. They wanted to explore. They wanted to know. And they worked in ways other species found strange, fast, messy, bold. Sometimes they failed. Sometimes badly. But they always got back up again. They never stopped trying. This spirit made them strong in ways that were difficult to measure. But back in the council hall, nobody spoke about human spirit. They spoke about human danger. They spoke about human unpredictability. And slowly, the idea that Earth should be taken over had become normal, safe, necessary. Some younger species felt uneasy, but they stayed silent. Speaking against the council could lead to punishment, and no one wanted to be the one defending a world full of unknowns. Few representatives wondered if maybe humans could have been allies instead of enemies. But those voices were too few, too late, and too soft. The vote was done, the decision complete. The archivist bot stored the final record. By unanimous decision, humanity is to be restrained for the safety of the galaxy. Operation Dawn Chain authorized. Meanwhile, starships began to warm their engines. Armies gathered. Command signals spread through military networks like a rising tide. The galaxy prepared for a mission they believed would take only a few days. No one imagined what was waiting for them. No one expected Earth to resist. Not at the level that humans could resist. And no one believed, not even in the darkest corners of their thoughts, that this decision would soon turn into the greatest mistake in galactic history. As the fleets moved toward Earth, many council members celebrated quietly. They drank, sang, exchanged glowing gifts, or simply watched the stars with relief. Some slept peacefully for the first time in years. The idea of humans being controlled made them feel protected. They did not know that. The humans they feared were already watching them. Back, Earth's hidden deep space. Telescopes had detected the fleets long before. The ships even reached the outer edge of the solar system. Human command centers began analyzing fleet shapes, energy signals, communication codes. They studied every detail with calm focus. There was no panic, only preparation. On Earth, scientists, engineers, and leaders gathered in underground meeting rooms. They didn't shout or argue. They spoke clearly. They had seen this coming for a long time. Humans had always suspected the universe might not welcome them warmly. So they made contingency plans. They built technologies quietly. They strengthened defenses quietly. They advanced far faster than anyone expected. Quietly. And now, as the fleets approached, Earth finally understood the truth. They were not being welcomed. They were being targeted. But humanity also knew something the Council did not. They were ready. Maybe not ready for everything. Maybe not ready for peace or friendship. But ready to stand. Ready to defend. Ready to show the galaxy that Earth was not as weak as the Council believed. A quiet determination settled over the planet. No rules were broken. No extreme actions were taken. No harm was planned. But Earth would not allow itself to be enslaved. While the galaxy felt confident, humans felt focused. While the Council prepared for an easy victory, humans prepared for a challenge. Two completely different expectations were heading toward the same moment. And the archivist bot, floating in the silent corners of the council hall, saved the last line of its report for the day. Mission begins tomorrow. It did not know that in a short time, it would record a very different line the galaxy would never forget. The first invasion fleet entered the edge of the solar system with full confidence. From their point of view, Earth was a young world, A simple world, a quiet world. Their scanners picked up radio waves, old satellites, and a few space stations humans used for research. Nothing looked threatening. Nothing looked advanced. Nothing looked like it could stop a Galactic Council attack. The fleet commanders relaxed. They had done this sort of mission before, on many other planets. Usually, the local population didn't even know what was happening until it was too late. And humans, they believed, would be no different. But something felt strange almost immediately. Their long-range sensors kept finding echoes, reflections, unusual patterns. Like someone was scanning them back. At first, they ignored it. A young world shouldn't have been able to detect ships that were hidden under advanced cloaking fields. That technology was supposed to be invisible to undeveloped species. And yet, the echoes kept appearing. Some commanders started to get uneasy, but they stayed quiet. Nobody wanted to report something that sounded like fear, especially not fear of a Kree-FTL species. Meanwhile, deep below Earth's surface, in an underground command center built beneath a mountain, humans watched the fleet closely. Large screens filled the room, glowing with shapes of ships, energy lines, and movement patterns. Scientists and analysts studied everything calmly. They didn't shout. They didn't panic. They simply worked with steady focus, as if this situation was something they had been ready for all along. A senior analyst looked at the data and said softly, "They're using cloaking tech, but their signal bleed is too strong. They don't know we can see them." Engineers confirmed it. The alien fleet's cloaking system wasn't nearly as perfect as they believed. Maybe it fooled older civilizations in the galaxy, but humans had created detection tools based on a different style of thinking. Instead of trying to see the ships, they looked for how the ships distorted the space around them. Even the smallest disturbance gave them away. Humans had learned long ago that nature didn't lie. Space didn't lie. Gravity didn't lie. And the invading fleet created disturbances humans could detect from millions of kilometers away. Earth's leaders ordered complete silence. No ships were sent out. No warnings were issued. They wanted to understand the intention of the fleet first. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't what it looked like. But that hope didn't last long. The alien fleet changed formation. They began moving in a pattern that only meant one thing: preparation for planetary capture. Earth now understood with complete certainty. The galaxy had come to take them. When the fleet reached near Earth space, they expected to see fear. They expected humans to run, hide, or broadcast desperate pleas. But instead, the aliens were met with something completely unexpected: resistance without violence. The first wave of alien ships opened their communication channels to broadcast a demand for surrender. But before they could finish, every single one of their screens flickered and shut down. A calm, simple message appeared: "Your communication systems have been temporarily paused. Please stand by." The alien commanders froze. None of them knew how it happened. Their technology was supposed to be impossible to hack. Their channels were encrypted with codes older than most civilizations. Yet a planet they thought was primitive had just turned them off like a switch. Hundreds of ships drifted in confusion. Officers panicked quietly. They checked every system again and again. Nothing was damaged. Nothing was broken. Nothing was destroyed. Humans hadn't attacked them. They had simply taken control of their systems without causing harm. It was the kind of action that confused the aliens even more. They were ready for a violent species, a chaotic species, a dangerous species. But what they saw was something else. Calm power. Earth continued observing. Deep in an orbital station hidden behind the moon, a team of engineers monitored the alien ships with unusual precision. Every piece of data was analyzed. Every movement was tracked. These people had trained for years in secret programs, preparing for scenarios the world hoped would never happen. And now, that training mattered. Humans didn't disable anything permanently. They didn't shut down engines or weapons. They only paused communications to stop the aliens from sending fake warnings to Earth. It was a defensive move, not an aggressive one. The aliens, however, did not see it that way. Some of the commanders believed humans had stolen technology from somewhere. Others thought Earth had secretly been trading with advanced species. A few began to worry that maybe the Council had been wrong about humans from the beginning, but there was no turning back. The fleet continued its approach. When they finally entered low orbit, ready to deploy containment units, the second surprise appeared. Earth had orbital defense platforms, not old ones, not rusty ones, not weak ones. Sleek, metallic structures slowly turned toward the fleet, humming with energy the aliens couldn't identify. Their sensors tried to scan the platforms, but every time they did, the readings came back confusing or empty. It was as if the platforms were built with technology that simply didn't match anything the galaxy had seen before. The alien commanders began arguing. Some wanted to retreat. Others wanted to push forward and force surrender. They all believed humans were still far below them in power, but now they also knew the mission would not be as easy as they expected. Still, they didn't want to admit fear. They had come too far. Their orders were clear. Their council had voted. They were to capture Earth, peacefully if possible, forcefully if required. So they launched the first wave of containment drones. Small metallic pods shot toward Earth's atmosphere. They were designed to disable communications, shut down power grids, and prevent humans from coordinating. They didn't destroy, they only blocked. This allowed the Council to take control without causing harm. But the moment the drones entered the upper atmosphere, something invisible wrapped around them. Gravity shifted. Air pressure changed. Light bent. And the drones simply stopped. They didn't fall. They didn't explode. They didn't malfunction. They just hung there in the sky, frozen like insects trapped in amber. The alien fleet stared in shock. Nothing in their records explained what they were seeing. No species in the known galaxy had ever done anything like this. From Earth's command center, scientists watched silently. Their gravity control system was working exactly as they had hoped. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't designed to hurt anything. It was meant to immobilize approaching threats without damage. A peaceful shield, not a dangerous one. Humanity had always tried to find a way to defend without destroying, and they had succeeded. The alien fleet, however, had no idea what they were dealing with. Confusion grew. Fear spread. Commanders began sending urgent messages to the Council, but even those messages were being intercepted by Earth's communication snares. Not blocked, just delayed. Humans didn't want the galaxy to panic yet. Everything Earth did was controlled, thoughtful, and precise. The alien fleet had expected chaos. Instead, they found control. They had expected panic. Instead, they found calm. They had expected resistance. Instead, they found a quiet warning. Up above Earth, in the cold, silent space surrounding the planet, a strange feeling began to settle over every alien ship and man. Understanding that the mission was no longer predictable. Earth was not what they believed. Earth was not what they were taught. Earth was something else entirely. And the more they saw, the more one quiet truth grew in their minds. If humans had wanted war, the fleet would already be gone. But humans didn't attack. They simply watched, and waiting, silently, was somehow more terrifying than anything else. In the Galactic Council Hall, far away across the stars, leaders celebrated the beginning of the operation. They had no idea that the very first wave of their plan had already failed. They had no idea that the fleet they sent was stuck in place, unable to move forward. They had no idea that Earth had awakened, and the archivist bot still recording history with cold accuracy, would soon write a sentence that no one in the council expected. The humans did not fall. The Galactic Council expected Earth to fall quickly. They believed the first invasion fleet would send back reports of success within hours. But instead, they received silence. No updates. No messages. No requests for backup. Nothing. At first, the council thought it was a technical glitch. But when hours passed with no communication from the fleet, the hall slowly filled with worry. Back near Earth, the alien ships remained trapped in a standstill, confused and helpless. They tried everything, restarting systems, changing frequencies, even attempting emergency jumps, but nothing worked the way it was supposed to. It felt like invisible hands were holding the entire fleet in place. Earth did not destroy them. Earth did not damage them. Earth simply made sure they couldn't move closer. Meanwhile, humanity began its counterstrike. A peaceful counterstrike, but still a powerful one. In a control room high above the planet, inside a station hidden within layers of optical camouflage, human representatives prepared a message. They didn't want to start a war. They didn't want to hurt anyone. But they also refused to be taken or controlled. So humans chose something unexpected. They asked for a meeting, a simple request, but one loaded with calm strength. Their message was sent through a secure channel that slipped through alien firewalls like water flowing through cracks. It reached the council directly, bypassing every security checkpoint. For a moment, no one in the council hall understood how the message even got there. A hologram appeared in the center of the hall, showing the image of a human diplomat standing calmly with folded hands. There was no anger in the human's voice. No fear, no desperation. Only steady clarity. We request a hearing with the Galactic Council to discuss your actions against our world. We know you voted to take Earth. We know your fleets are here. We ask for a peaceful conversation before any further steps are taken. The council chamber erupted in shock. The idea that humans, who are supposed to be powerless, could send a message directly into their secure hall was something none of them expected. Many representatives instantly rejected the request. They are too advanced, one shouted. They are dangerous, another cried. They must have stolen someone's technology, a third insisted. But the evidence was right in front of them. Humans had found their way into the heart of the galaxy's most protected network without causing damage. No alarms, no disruptions. Just a simple message. And worse for the council, humans didn't sound proud or mocking. They sounded disappointed. That made many species uncomfortable. Back near Earth, the fleet commanders finally received a message from the human diplomat as well. The voice was calm, polite, and respectful. No threats were made. No weapon warnings. No countdowns. The message simply said, "You are not trapped. You are being held safely until the council responds. We do not wish for conflict, but we cannot allow an invasion of our home." Many alien officers didn't understand. They had expected humans to fight violently or surrender quickly. Instead, they got a species that could stop their entire fleet without firing a single shot. Some commanders began to fear something new, not human violence, but human capability. Inside Earth's underground command center, humans monitored the situation moment by moment. They had to be careful. The goal wasn't to escalate anything, but to show that humanity was not helpless. They needed to send a message to the entire galaxy that Earth deserved respect, not control. The Council still refused the request for a meeting. They believed allowing humans into the hall would show weakness. They believed it would give humans too much confidence. They believed they could still overpower Earth if they sent more fleets. But before they could act, something else happened. Earth appeared above their capital world. Not physically, of course, but through a projection so large it spread across the sky. People in the capital looked up and saw a giant image of Earth hanging in the heavens like a second moon. The council's communication channels all turned into one single broadcast. We request peaceful dialogue, the human diplomats. Voice echoed across the capital. The entire planet froze. Council had never seen anything like this. A pre-FTL species should not have been able to reach their world. They shouldn't have been able to project anything across their sky. They shouldn't have been able to bend communication networks on a galactic scale. But humans had done it effortlessly, and they still hadn't hurt anyone. The council panicked. Messages flew across the hall. Many representatives begged to shut down the projection, but nothing worked. Their override codes failed. Their security systems looped back on themselves. It was as if humanity had gently taken control of the entire communication grid, not to attack, but to speak. Finally, after hours of chaos, the council gave in. They accepted the request for a hearing. They didn't do it out of kindness. They didn't do it because they respected Earth. They did it because they had no idea what humans might do next, and they didn't want to find out. The hearing was set to take place on the council's capital world. Representatives from every species attended, filling the massive hall. This time, no one was calm. This time, there was fear. The entire galaxy expected an angry, vengeful, dangerous human to appear through the portal. But when the human diplomat arrived, the hall fell silent for a different reason. There was no anger in the diplomat's eyes. No pride, no arrogance. Only calm determination. It confused the council even more. The human bowed politely and began to speak. We saw your fleets approaching our world. We stopped them, not to harm them, but to prevent conflict. We want to understand why you voted to enslave our planet. Those words hit the hall like a quiet explosion. The council wasn't used to being questioned. They weren't used to being responsible for their actions. For ages, they had made decisions that shaped the lives of entire galaxies without accountability. But humans were holding them accountable now. Some representatives tried to defend the vote. They claimed it was for safety, that humans were too unpredictable. Others claimed it was protection, a way to guide Earth into a peaceful place in the galaxy. Many tried to twist the words, making the vote sound less cruel. The human listened to every explanation patiently. And then, with steady calm, replied, "You fear us because you did not understand us. Instead of speaking with us, you chose to take away our freedom. That is not the act of a peaceful council." The hall grew still. The human diplomat wasn't threatening them. They weren't angry. They were simply telling the truth. The galaxy had never faced a species like this. A species with great power, but even greater restraint. A species that could stop an invasion without causing harm. A species that asked to talk instead of fight. This confused the council even more, because it broke every expectation they had about humans. Back near Earth, the alien fleet remained immobilized but unharmed. Human technicians monitored their life support levels, energy supply, and temperature conditions, ensuring no vessel suffered damage. Earth protected even its enemies, something the aliens didn't know how to process. The council finally asked the human diplomat a question that echoed through the hall. "What do you want?" The reply was simple. "We want fairness. We want respect. And we want the right to choose our own future." There was no threat hidden inside the words. But everyone in the hall felt something new, a shift in power. For the first time in thousands of years, the council realized the galaxy had changed. A new species had risen. A species that would not bow. A species that would not conquer. A species that stood firm with dignity. And the council began to understand something very important. If humans wanted to take revenge, they already could have. If humans wanted to attack, they already would have. But humans didn't want domination. They wanted equality, and that made them far more powerful than the Council ever imagined. Far away, the archivist bot recorded every word, every movement, every heartbeat of the moment. It would soon write in its report. The galaxy expected fire. Humanity answered with reason. The Galactic Council Hall had never been this silent. Thousands of eyes, lenses, feelers, and glowing senses were locked on one single human standing at the center platform. The air was thick with tension, but also confusion. Many of the representatives were still trying to understand how a species they once considered primitive had reached them, confronted them, and stood calmly before them without fear. The human diplomat looked around the hall slowly, not with anger, but with a steady, firm gaze. Everyone could feel the weight of that silence. It wasn't threatening. It wasn't traumatic. It was simply the silence of someone who knew the truth and expected honesty in return. Finally, the diplomat spoke, and their voice echoed through the hall with calm boldness. "You voted to take our planet," they said. "You voted to control our people. You made this decision without speaking to us, without understanding us, without even considering that we might have a voice." No one replied. Many representatives lowered their heads, avoiding direct eye contact. Some shifted uncomfortably. A few looked angry, but even their anger felt weak under the weight of the truth. The human continued, "I am not here to accuse you. I am not here to shout or blame. I am simply here for an explanation. Why did you choose to enslave Earth?" That word enslave made several species flinch. They had tried so hard to avoid using that word. They had given it softer names, nicer names. Words like containment or guided integration. Words that sounded cleaner. But the human saw through the disguises. One of the older council leaders finally stepped forward. Their voice shook slightly as they spoke. "We believed humans were unpredictable," they said. "Your world changed too fast. Your species advanced too quickly. You broke patterns that have shaped the galaxy for millions of years. We feared what you might become." The human nodded slowly, acknowledging the honesty. "So instead of speaking with us," they said, "you sent an invasion fleet." A quiet ripple of shame moved through the hall. Another representative rose, this one from a cautious amphibian species. "We thought you were still below the required development level for equal membership," they explained. "Your world appeared young and unstable. We believed guiding you by force would prevent future conflict." The humans stayed calm. "You feared conflict," they said, "but your first action was to create it." That sentence hit the room like a gentle blow, the kind that didn't hurt physically, but carried weight. Many council members looked at one another, feeling the harsh truth in the simple words. Then the human diplomat changed the direction of the conversation. "You brought fleets to our home," they said softly. "But instead of responding with force, we stopped your ships without hurting anyone. Because we do not want a broken galaxy. We want a peaceful one." The entire room went still. Most species had expected humans to be wild, aggressive, or emotional. But this calmness, this clarity was something they weren't prepared for. Slowly, the human lifted a small device. When activated, holographic recordings appeared around the hall. They showed the Galactic Council's vote, every representative raising a hand, a limb, a tendril, or a glowing crystal to mark their decision. The recordings showed the moment they unanimously voted to take Earth's freedom, and the footage shifted to something else. It showed the alien fleet approaching Earth. It showed humans tracking every ship precisely. It showed the moment the gravity field stopped the containment drones in midair without harming them. It showed how humans kept the fleet suspended in orbit, gently but firmly. The recordings were not displayed to embarrass anyone. They were not shown to make the aliens feel guilty. They were shown so no one could deny what had really happened. When the holograms faded, the humans said, We did not destroy your fleets. We did not harm your people, because we do not believe in acting from fear. We believe in acting from understanding. A new kind of silence filled the room, one that wasn't from fear this time, but respect. Slowly, a younger representative spoke. Their voice trembled. What do you want from us? The human looked at them gently. We want honesty, they said. We want transparency. We want a galaxy where no world is taken without a voice. A galaxy where every species, small or large, has the right to choose its path. Many species had never heard someone speak like this in the council hall. They were used to demands, threats, alliances, trades. But a request for fairness? That was rare. The human continued. We are not here to seek revenge. We are not here to punish you. We are here to make sure this never happens to any world again. Not just Earth, any world. A soft murmur spread across the hall. Some species looked stunned. Others looked relieved. Slowly, the human diplomat raised a hand, and the screens around the hall lit up again. This time, charts and evidence appeared showing how humans had helped their own world recover from disasters, solved problems others thought impossible, and advanced faster, not because of greed or aggression, but because of curiosity and determination. We are not perfect, the human said. We make mistakes. We struggle. We argue. We learn. That is what being human means. But it also means we get back up every time. At this, a few representatives actually nodded. They had watched humanity from afar for years. They had seen how humans rebuilt cities after storms, healed lands after fires, and worked together during hard times. It suddenly made sense why humans had advanced so quickly. They never stopped trying. Then came the moment that shifted everything. With a calm breath, the human diplomat said, I am not here to ask for surrender. I am here to offer peace. But peace must be built together. The hall grew quiet again, but this time the silence felt hopeful. Representatives whispered among themselves. Some were still scared. Others were confused. But many began to feel something new: trust. The human diplomat continued gently. If we are to move forward, the council must admit its mistake. Not to Earth, but to itself. No great power becomes wiser by hiding its errors. Only by acknowledging them. A deep wave of discomfort spread through the room. The council had never admitted a mistake in its long history. It had always acted with absolute authority. But now, a young species from a small planet had held a mirror up to them. And the reflection was not easy to ignore. The human added. We do not ask for punishment. We only ask for change. Let no species vote for the enslavement of another again. Let no world face a fleet without reason. Let the galaxy grow without fear. Several representatives looked emotional in their own ways, some glowing brighter, others dimming, others curling their limbs inward. It was strange how much humanity's calmness affected them. The council leader finally rose again. Their voice was quiet, but honest. What you ask, they said slowly, will change the foundations of our galaxy. Yes, the human replied simply. And that is why it must be done. The leader paused, then asked the question everyone feared. And if we refuse? The human looked directly into their eyes. Then we will leave. But know this Earth will defend itself. Not through war, not through destruction, but through strength and truth. And more importantly, many smaller species will lose hope, because they will see that even faced with your greatest mistake, you chose to hide instead of grow. The hall froze again. This wasn't a threat. This was truth. A truth the council could not escape. Several species began whispering frantically. Some demanded immediate reform. Others argued that change was too big. But slowly, voices of reason began to rise, not from the powerful empires, but from the smaller ones. A small representative spoke, their voice trembling but brave. "We need this change," they said. "We have lived in fear for too long. If humanity, with all its strength, chooses peace, then so should we." A second species agreed, then a third, then dozens more. The tide was turning. The humans stood quietly, letting the galaxy decide for itself. They did not pressure. They did not force. They simply waited with calm expectation. Finally, the council leader sighed deeply, a sound filled with both regret and relief. "We will begin a session," they said slowly, "to create a new charter, one that protects all worlds, including Earth." A gentle smile appeared on the human's face. "Thank you," they said softly. "That is all we wanted." Far away, in a quiet corner of the hall, the archivist bot recorded the moment and added a new line to its report. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. Humanity convinced it to change. The days after the council meeting became the strangest days the galaxy had ever seen. For generations, powerful species had ruled with pride, showing off their fleets, their long histories, and their strict traditions. But now, all of that pride had turned into something else. Some would call it fear, others would call it shame, and many would call it desperation. Almost every species that had once voted to enslave Earth was now trying, in its own way, to reach out to the humans, and not with threats, but with apologies. The first requests for meetings arrived almost immediately. The council station's communication hall, which once echoed with loud arguments and sharp debates, now felt like a waiting room at a hospital. Dozens of envoys sat silently, clutching datapads or gifts, waiting for their turn to speak with the humans. Many of them had not slept in days. Some of them hardly ate. They all worried the same thing. What would humans decide next? The human delegation had taken over a small corner of the station, a section that had previously been used for storage. It was quiet there, almost peaceful, and the humans kept the doors open so anyone entering would feel welcome. This alone surprised many species. They expected guards, barriers, and scanners that could detect fear. Instead, they found a simple room with chairs, a wide table, and warm lights that made the space feel strangely comforting. When the first envoy entered, a tall creature with transparent skin that changed color with emotion, the humans did not react with anger. They offered the envoy water and a seat. The envoy expected shouting or threats, but instead, one human simply asked, "How can we help you today?" That question alone made the envoy break down in tears. Over the next few days, this scene repeated again and again. Proud species that once held great power now lowered their heads, asking for mercy. Some brought gifts, rare minerals, ancient technology, historical artifacts that were priceless. Others brought promises. They would withdraw troops from border regions, end old conflicts, reduce weapon production. Many offered alliances on any terms the humans wanted. But what shocked them most was that the humans kept, refusing to take anything for themselves. At one meeting, a group of small bird-like beings presented a chest filled with glowing crystals. They explained that these crystals powered their entire civilization and were considered a sacred gift. If the humans accepted even one, it would be seen as a sign of forgiveness. But the humans gently pushed the chest back and said they did not want payment. Another envoy, representing a species famous for trading across the galaxy, brought a map showing secret routes known only to merchants. These routes bypassed dangerous star fields, cutting travel time by weeks. They offered the map as a peace offering. But again, the humans shook their heads and said, "We don't want anything that belongs to you. We only want peace." This confused everyone. Many species leaned on the idea that power always required a price. If humans were now the most powerful force in the galaxy, why weren't they acting like it? Why didn't they demand tribute, land, or loyalty? Why didn't they seize the chance to build their own empire? The answer became clearer as more envoys met the humans. They realized that humans weren't looking for control. They were looking for a stable future. A future where no species would judge another as too dangerous or too unpredictable. A future where no one would vote to enslave a world just because it grew too quickly or asked too many questions. One of the most emotional moments came when a delegation from a small species arrived. Their homeworld had suffered from environmental collapse for years, and they barely had the resources to travel to the council station. They came not to offer a gift, but to ask for protection. Clearing their throats nervously, they explained that before all of this happened, a larger empire had been pressuring them to surrender half of their territory. Now, with the galaxy shaken and uncertain, they feared the empire would strike while everyone was distracted. The humans listened quietly. They didn't interrupt or take notes. When the envoys finished speaking, their small hands trembling, a human simply said, "We'll help you." The envoys blinked in confusion. "We have nothing to offer," one of them whispered. "Not food, not minerals, not technology. We are poor." "We didn't ask for anything," the human replied. "You need help. That's enough." When that answer spread through the council station, everything changed. Stories began to drift from one species to another, whispered in hallways or traded in quiet corners. Stories about how humans had repaired a dying satellite network for a world that once tried to blockade Earth. Stories about how humans had provided medical help to a species that had never shown them kindness. Stories about how humans had quietly sent engineers to restore a damaged moon habitat without asking for credit, recognition, or payment. Some couldn't believe it. They thought it must be a strategy, some kind of master plan to gain influence through kindness. Others thought humans were simply trying to appear noble. But the more time they spent with the humans, the more they realized something simple and unsettling. The humans were not pretending. They were not acting. This was who they were. They didn't want revenge. They didn't want dominance. They wanted fairness, and that frightened many species more than any weapon ever could dot in one meeting. Held late in the night cycle, a group of envoys from a famously aggressive species met with the humans. They had built their entire civilization on strength and conquest, believing that anyone weaker existed only to be controlled. Now, trembling slightly, they apologized for voting to enslave Earth. They admitted that they feared losing their place in the galaxy if humans decided to retaliate. "We know you can destroy us," their leader said, his voice low and strained. "But we ask for mercy. And if you wish for it, we will withdraw from every world we ever took. We will end our conquests. We will even dismantle our fleets." The humans looked at each other. They did not seem pleased or triumphant. They seemed tired. "We don't want you to destroy yourselves," one human said gently. "We want you to stop harming others. And if you're willing to do that, then we're willing to move forward." The leader nodded slowly, his posture softening. He expected harsh demands and was instead given a chance to change. That was the pattern everywhere. Humans pushed no one. They forced no one. They simply asked for fairness, honesty, and cooperation. And because of that strange, calm kindness, many species felt something they had not felt in generations. Hope. The council station itself began changing. Hallways once filled with tension now saw groups of species talking together for the first time without fear. Delegates shared meals, exchanged small gifts, or told stories of their homeworlds. And in almost every conversation, the humans stood nearby, listening quietly, guiding gently, and reminding everyone that a better future was possible. There were still some who doubted, some who believed humans were hiding a deeper motive. But as days passed, even those voices grew quieter. Every action humans took made it harder to believe they wanted domination. They seemed focused on healing, rebuilding, and making sure no species would ever again fear what they did not understand. As the envoys continued meeting the humans, many of them realized something humbling. The humans were teaching the galaxy a lesson that could not be learned through war, technology, or fear. They were teaching it through restraint, through compassion, through strength used not to conquer, but to protect. And slowly, quietly, almost painfully, many species began wishing something they had never imagined wishing. They wished humans would stay. They wished humans would guide them. They wished humans would not leave the galaxy to fall back into old habits. In private conversations, some envoys even said that humanity had become a kind of moral center, something the galaxy desperately needed. A species that proved that power did not have to corrupt, and that mercy could sometimes be stronger than force. By the end of the cycle, every species who had once voted to enslave Earth found themselves in the same position. They no longer feared that humans would punish them. They feared that humans might walk away and leave them with their own broken systems. And as they waited for the next council meeting, where humanity would announce its final decision, the entire galaxy held its breath, because for the first time in history, every species understood that Earth did not need the galaxy, but the galaxy might need Earth. The day the council gathered again felt different from anything the galaxy had ever experienced. Usually, the meeting hall buzzed with noise, arguments, and the constant sound of translators working at full speed. But today, the hall was almost silent. Delegates sat in their seats without moving much, their eyes often drifting toward the empty center platform where the humans would soon speak. It felt as if the entire galaxy had paused. The tall windows around the chamber showed the stars outside, thousands of them sparkling, as if even space itself was waiting to hear what the humans would decide. For weeks, talk across the station had been the same. Every species wondered the same thing. Would the humans punish the galaxy, forgive it, ignore it, or take control of it? Every possibility carried a different kind of fear and hope. Some wished humans would take charge, because the humans had proven they were fair and calm. Others worried what it would mean for their own culture if one species held so much influence. But nobody wanted a return to the old ways, where the powerful could crush the weak without consequence. It was clear those days were coming to an end, but no one knew what would replace them. Then the humans entered the chamber. There were only a few of them, walking in a quiet line, looking around the hall not with pride and not with anger, but with a steady focus that made every species straighten up in their seats. These were not conquerors. They were not rulers. They were people who had seen too much, understood too much, and carried a weight none of the others could imagine. They walked to the central platform, where the lights slowly brightened. No music played. No introductions were needed. Everyone knew why they were here. After a moment of silence, the human envoy stepped forward. The envoy looked around the room, meeting the eyes of beings from all corners of the galaxy. When they finally spoke, their voice was calm but carried a firmness that held attention. "You brought us here to discuss the future," the envoy said. "Not of Earth, and not of a single world, but of all of us together." Many delegates shifted in their seats, unsure what that meant. Some feared consequences were coming next. "We have all seen," the envoy continued, "how quickly fear can turn into violence. How easily assumptions become decisions. How a misunderstanding can grow into something dangerous." A quiet wave of shame passed through the room. "You voted to enslave our world," the envoy said. "You believed you were doing the safe thing. You believed that controlling Earth would protect you." A few delegates lowered their heads. Some looked away. "And yet," the human said, "when your worlds asked for help, we helped. When you feared collapse, we supported you. When you asked for peace, we listened." The envoy paused, letting those words settle. We did not do this because we wanted something in return. We did not do this because we were trying to gain power. We did it because we know what fear can do when it grows unchecked. We have seen it on our own planet many times. A few delegates nodded slowly, remembering stories humans had shared about their own history. We don't want an empire, the envoy said softly. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to replace one system of control with another. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. Instead, the envoy said, we want something new, something better, something that gives each species the right to exist without fear. The lights shifted slightly, drawing everyone's attention. A new symbol appeared behind the envoy, a circle made from many smaller shapes, each one different, each one touching the others. This, the envoy said, is a new charter, a new set of rules for our galaxy, a promise that no species will ever again be judged as too dangerous, a promise that no world can be enslaved, a promise that power cannot be used to crush those who have less. The hall was silent, completely silent. We want to rebuild this galaxy with fairness, the envoy continued. Not through force, but through understanding. Not through fear, but through cooperation. This charter will protect the small, limit the strong, and remind us all that growth should not be punished. A delegate from a small species raised a trembling hand. The human nodded at them. Will Earth lead this new system? The delegate asked. There was fear in their voice, but also hope. The envoy took a breath before answering. We will guide it, they said. We will help it grow, but we will not own it, and we will not stand above you. This charter will only work if every world has a voice. One of the larger species looked confused. You do not want control, even though you could take it? No, the human replied. Because if one species controls everything, then we have learned nothing. We want balance, not dominance. The chamber was filled with whispers again. Delegates leaned toward each other, surprised, relieved, unsure how to respond. Then the envoy raised a hand, and the hall fell quiet again. We know some of you doubt our intentions. That is normal. Trust cannot be forced. But the galaxy has seen what happens when we choose fear instead of reason. We cannot let that happen again. Another delegate spoke up, voice soft. And if someone tries to break the charter? The envoy's expression hardened just slightly, not angry, but firm enough to be understood. Then Earth will stand against it, they said. And we know many of you will stand with us. That answer sent a strange mixture of tension and comfort through the chamber. For the first time, species that once feared humans now realized they felt safer with humans on their side. The envoy then stepped back, signaling that the floor now belonged to the delegates. Slowly, one by one, representatives from across the galaxy rose to speak. Some expressed regret for past decisions. Others thanked Earth for its restraint. Some admitted they had never imagined a powerful species would choose fairness over control. A few even said quietly that they hoped humanity would remain involved forever, because without humans, the galaxy might drift back into old habits. Hours passed this way, but no one complained. These speeches were more than words. They were the first steps toward a different galaxy. Finally, after the last delegate spoke, the final act of the day began. One by one, every species signed the new charter. Some signed with shaking hands. Some signed proudly. Some signed with tears in their eyes, unable to believe they were witnessing a moment that would reshape history. When the humans signed last, a soft applause echoed through the chamber. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It wasn't a celebration. It was a sign of respect. Outside the council station, ships from dozens of species hovered in silence, watching through digital screens as the signing ceremony ended. Across the galaxy, people from countless worlds tuned in to watch the broadcast. Old enemies found themselves sitting side by side, realizing they might one day become allies. Small chivalry.